You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hey Ramblers! Today's episode is brought to you by Fangoria. Since 1979, Fangoria has been the authority in the world of contemporary horror. As the only sanctuary for horror aficionados in its early days, it has now grown into an empire that expands beyond its celebrated magazine. From t-shirts, coffee mugs, beanies, enamel pins, there's something for every horror fanatic in your world, even if it's you. So head on over to shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or use code pencil and paper productions at checkout to get 20% off your first order or magazine subscription. Yes, it is a mouthful, which is why there are links in the show notes down below. That's shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or code pencil and paper productions at checkout for 20% off. Fangoria, first in fright since 1979.
Buy it or we'll tear your soul apart.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Horror Ramblings podcast, your show about all things horror. Even though I might sound a little different today, it is me, Les, and I am joined by Steven. The weather has decided to do something to my voice, apparently. But the show must go on, and I know it hasn't been that long since we did a show where it's just been us talking to each other, but it feels like it's been... For some reason, it just feels like it's been a while, so...
Yeah, there's been a bit of a gap, or at least for time, for other reasons. It's all good, we're here now.
We're here, and we're going to talk about something interesting today. A little hidden gem.
I think so.
Yeah, I have a hot take on it, but before we get into all of that, a couple things. One, how are you doing? Feel like I haven't talked to you in a minute, so how you doing?
I am doing as well as everybody who was disappointed in a certain event in this country is feeling currently. But it's okay. You know, we'll persevere. Hopefully we can get through the other side. It'll be okay. I have to remind myself it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I know it's a long road. But we'll get there. So
just remember, it's probably expensive to move to Canada.
I actually have friends in Canada, and well, you do too. And I'm hearing that it's not any better. I heard some financial stuff from a friend of mine, and my God, just the shit I was hearing, I was like, what? Are you insane? Like $4,000 for insurance for a year? Insane.
You know, I see all these things from like all these really old towns in like Italy and in Ireland and stuff, and it's like they'll pay you money if you come live here because they don't want the town to die. And I'm just like, could I have the simple life like that? Could I do it? As long as I have internet, I guess I'd be okay. And you know,
sure,
a couple things. And I mean, it couldn't be worse than how things are right now.
Not really. I mean, if I would be absolutely okay having an island alone. That I have to take a ferry to get to. It'll be okay. I'll be fine.
I actually have I have a buddy here in town. We were talking the other day, and he was talking about the rising grocery prices. And he said, I was on the phone with my wife. He said, I keep seeing how stuff's getting more expensive. He's like, then I made it to the eggs, and I saw how much eggs cost. He said, and have you ever had an adult hissy fit, like a full-on adult tantrum in the middle of a store? And I'm like, I have once or twice. He's like, yeah, I had that over eggs.
And it's so ridiculous considering each one of us could potentially just go buy a chicken and have our own egg. And I know that it seems that simple to do so, but I know it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, you know, we have a friend that just bought like 6 chickens, and they were like, yeah, they're a pain in the ass to take care of. In certain circumstances. Most of the time, they're easy to take care of. You just have to remember to feed them. And he was like, I'm getting more eggs than I thought I would, which is nice. And it's cheaper to buy the feed the chickens, and get your eggs that way. And I'm like, a lot of it boils down to all these companies know that we prefer the convenience. We prefer what's easy. It's like, I could make my own bread at home, too, for next to nothing.
Yeah.
I could get my own eggs. If I lived out in the middle of nowhere, I could get a cow if I wanted to and have milk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, not a lot of people want to do that. So, it's like, well...
No, we've honestly started considering it. Like, we've started looking into, like, just little simpler, easier things that are not as complicated. Like, we looked at something the other day and feel like it was making your own onion powder or something like that, where it's just you find these little things that you use on a regular basis and you never think about what you could do to make your own, and then you finally see somebody do it and it's like, well, son of a bitch, I ought to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's simple. We actually have a dehydrator. All they did was cut this onion up, spread it out all over this dehydrator, dry it the fuck out, and then put it in a blender and just puree it into dust. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch, if that's all it takes.
That's just like the other day I watched some guy make powdered sugar. He just took regular sugar, poured it in a food processor. He said you can do it in a blender. It just takes a little bit longer, and turn it on and you got powdered sugar. I mean, you know.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just we don't think about it. You know, we think, well, there's got to be all these processes and all this stuff. That's why it's so damned expensive. It's not.
No.
We could do it ourselves. We just, like you said, the convenience fee that we're all being charged is the problem.
I saw this joke the other day. It was about until you're 18, you're getting your free trial to life. And then when you turn 18, you have to start paying for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a good point. I said, can I change my subscription around, though? Is there a premium that I can maybe pay a little extra for and maybe be a little better off?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. But aside from all the craziness,
Yeah.
things are okay for the most part. I would.
For the most part.
Okay. Yeah, I other than feeling under the weather and a few other things, one of the things that you brought up and whatnot, things have been all right over here on this end as well. Yeah, I wanted to play catch up real quick because I feel like the fans that have kind of gotten to know us a little bit wonder how we're doing sometimes, and when we get quiet, they're like, "What's going on with you guys?"
Yeah, no, it's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot going on. Some things are changing. I don't know. We'll see where we are by years and what's going down.
Right. I also just wanted to put this out into the show for anyone that's listening. We are getting really close to our 100th episode, which is exciting. Might not seem like a big milestone to some people, but that's 100 conversations that have happened. That's pretty cool. I mean, I honestly think if we lived closer, we'd probably end up just if we were hanging out, we'd probably just end up having conversations and being like, man, maybe we should get the microphones out for this, and we'd probably have way more than 100 episodes by now.
Yeah, we'd definitely be well over 100 by now.
So, but yeah, I know we've kind of been bouncing some ideas off each other, maybe doing something a little special for the 100th episode. I think it's just exciting. I just wanted to share that so the fans kind of know what's up. I mean, I'm sure if they're paying attention, they're like, man, they want to be close to that limit.
Well, we definitely got some traction a few weeks back when we had Jasmine on.
Yeah.
I noticed we got a bit of an uptick. So any new listeners or checking out the show after that, if you joined in there, welcome. I hope you enjoy what we do here.
And that's the thing about the show that I love. If you listen to one episode and it's not for you, just go to another one, because there's always something different that we're talking about. It's not like it's the same, subject every time. Yes, it's horror related, but it's always something interesting. But if you don't like the dynamic, then for you, I mean, not everything is everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. But enough with the randomness. Do you have any cool news? Let's hop into this. Do you have any cool news?
Well, we might have a little bit of news. I know that there's been a lot that's happened or been announced since we've been off, but trying to sift through and find the juicier bits is the trick. I see that we're getting some more, like some, I guess, Blu-ray announcements, things dropping. Pumpkinhead's getting a Steelbook 4K next month. That new Hellboy movie, which I'm interested in checking it out. It's coming to Blu-ray next month. I'm going to check it out. I've heard that it's not a bad movie. Like, they're just trying to do something smaller, more, I don't know, creepier horror related with Hellboy and trying to do something different with the character as opposed to like a big budget superhero actioneer, I guess. I've heard it's good from some people. I've also heard it's terrible from some people. But I also feel like some of the people saying that it's bad are giving it hell for being cheap at times.
Yeah.
Versus actually paying attention to, is the story good? Is it actually entertaining to watch? You know, if you're keeping me engaged, but the effects and everything aren't exactly up to par, I can forgive a lot.
Yeah.
If you're keeping me engaged with the story. So, and I've heard it's not a bad story. Like, it's literally pulled from that story in the comics. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to check it out. What else we got? We got a new trailer for The Wolfman. Still haven't seen The Wolfman, but we got a new trailer for it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of starting to think that maybe, possibly, that Wolfman design might have been it. I don't know that for sure. I don't.
Yeah.
But there was at least a shot in the movie, and it all could be, or in the trailer, I guess, and it all could be deceptive, because we know how movie trailers can be. But it almost seemed like I saw that design, that original design that we saw.
Yeah.
And the scene would have me think that it would be the father, the main guy, I guess, however the story is supposed to be played out.
Yeah.
But I got a brief glimpse. Like they cut away just ever so quick. And I felt like I saw the white-haired Wolfman. Could be wrong, though. Could be absolutely 100% wrong. I'm just saying that's what I think I saw.
Could be. I mean, I do want to, on a side note, kind of related to the Wolfman thing. I know that I had sent you over those pictures of the animatronics for the new Universal Monsters ride. Come to find out, come May of 2025, Universal is adding a whole new park to its already existing park. And it's going to be huge, like hundreds and hundreds of acres. And they're doing a whole world in this new park dedicated to the Universal Monster. And I think that's badass. And I feel like they're maybe trying to go back a little bit to the roots of what made these characters so great. And I'm actually kind of for that. I think if they pull it off right, they could do it without it being cheesy or anything. I know that one Dracula series that they did on Netflix. Oh, I can't remember who the guy was that played.
I think it was just. Oh, you're talking about the BBC one?
Yes, the BBC one.
Clay's Bang. That guy fucking owned that Dracula role.
Man, it was a limited series, but man. And I feel like it stayed truer to the original Dracula story. In a sense, it was like it was telling a new story, but they were following a lot of the same rules, and he was more like the original vampires that I'm used to seeing. And, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it's the same thing. It's old. It's boring. But it's not. It's not when it's done well. Right. So I'm kind of hoping that the new park at Universal kind of breathes some new life into these characters and puts it somewhere again, because they're making them. They're making them, a lot more aggressive. They're making them scary again. For a new generation, but they're still true to what they've always been, which I think is, I think is awesome. And the design that they did for the creature from the Black Lagoon, especially, they've sort of given him these, because in the original film, he doesn't really look that scary. Like, to me, he's not that scary of a monster in his appearance. At the time he was terrifying. Yeah. But now they've made some little tweaks to him. They've made these big sharp teeth that are a lot more aggressive looking. The claws on his thinned hands are a little bit longer, a little bit more aggressive. But he's still at his core. You see him and you're like, this looks like Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's almost like they took the original creature and they took the creature from Monster Squad. And they just slapped them together, but I like it. Sure. So, yeah. There's another news thing that I would like to bring up.
Okay.
Heretic has been getting some pretty good reviews from what I've been seeing.
I've heard.
I just saw a newer trailer for it. It's pretty much a game of cat and mouse, and he's testing their faith in it, and it looks amazing. I never thought I needed it in my life, but is his name Hugh Grant, right? Mm-hmm. Hugh Grant does a Jar Jar Binks impression in this movie.
Yeah.
He talks about, the power of film, the power of, putting a message out there, and he talks about people seeing Jar Jar Binks as a false prophet. And he does an impression of Jar Jar Binks.
Why would Jar Jar be a false prophet?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But if you get a chance to watch the clip, it is I don't know what it is about him, but it's hilarious. And at the same time, you're like, this guy's out of his mind. So I really want to see it. I think it looks phenomenal. And all the great things I've heard about it, I need to watch it. And I've been watching a lot of movies here lately. So I need something good because I've been kind of torn. Shudder just released a film called Mads. It's a zombie movie. It's a French zombie movie, if I remember correctly. And while there were some parts in it that I thought were kind of cool, I honestly found it boring.
Okay.
If I'm being honest. I mean, it's just, there were some parts where I was like, okay, this isn't bad. But getting to those parts, you're sitting there going, along already. So here I am rambling on. Anyways, back to what you were saying news-wise.
We've got it. There's another trailer for a movie that I'm keeping my eye on. I would like to check it out if it turns out to be, not to say that I have to have someone tell me it's a good movie, but I want it to be a good movie. It seems like it would be a fun movie, and I'm hoping that's what I hear. There's a trailer for a movie called How to Kill a Monster. Did you see this?
I have not.
If you get a chance, check it out. If I remember, I'll send you a link to it. It seems just like a throwback to creature features from the 80s, and I don't know, just that, I get that vibe.
Yeah.
And even in the trailer, they're just like this Raimi-esque kind of, energy to it and how they kind of described it. And so, yeah, I'm kind of digging the vibe. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep my eye on that. And hopefully it'll be something worth checking out. So I'm excited to check that out. Same goes for I guess how to describe this. There's a remake, but it's not a remake. It's a sequel to Street Trash coming from Ryan Coogler, the guy that directed Fried Berry.
Yeah.
The trailer for that dropped. He said that it's his gory love letter to 80s cinema, which seems to be a thing that's happening. Like right now, this is the third, going with the one that I just mentioned, this Street Trash, and then another movie, which I want to bring up later. I'm gonna hold on to that because it's important to our topic. But it's a movie that is bringing back this sense of nostalgia for a particular period in time, which seems to be the 80s and the cinema of the time. So I find that funny that there's this surgence of that in horror right now.
Yeah.
We gotta show our love for the 80s.
The 80s were, I feel like the 80s were a golden age for horror. I really think that the 80s was
for cinema in general.
Yeah.
I think.
Just peak.
Something happened in the 80s where they were just like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's try everything. And we had so many original ideas.
Yeah.
So many original ideas. So yeah, when I talk about 80s cinema being just perfection, it's because we had, you take a look at that entire decade. How many sequels did you have? A few, sure. But there was a hit movie that came with it, and it started here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and I also think that's part of the reason why there are a lot of movies from the 90s that are actually really fantastic film. And there's a lot of really great 90s horror films and early 2000s horror film, but they're still in the shadow of those 80s horror movies because they were so iconic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad they're giving the 80s like this. I can get behind it. I hope that leads to a resurgence of some of these 90s films that were slept on, because there's quite a few, especially horror films from the 90s that are slept on. So
yeah. I found out this week, and I'm all right with it, because this isn't the first time we've had something like this happen, but I think it's a smart move. I really do. Robert Eggers said that you will not see Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu before the movie release. So if you want to see him, you're going to have to go to the cinema.
Good.
And
Good.
I'm all for it, because I've been anxiously awaiting, and now with that, it kind of makes me want to go.
Right.
Like you're kind of pushing me to go, and I respect it because my curiosity is getting the better of me. I do want to see the movie. So this just entices me more to want to go see it. So smart move. But even if I don't, I'm sure someone will leak it online.
Probably.
Yeah. We got our first look at Alien Earth, kinda. Disney Plus did this highlight reel of like things that are coming to our service, which is stupid that they're saying that it's coming to Disney Plus when it's coming to Hulu on Disney Plus.
Right.
whatever. So yeah, we saw clips, but not an official actual trailer. So
Yeah.
it's out there in some way, shape, or form. They're remaking Idle Hands, I guess.
I thought I had seen about that, yeah.
Jason Reitman and Finn Wolfhard, which I didn't realize. I know it's a cult classic, but I guess I haven't seen it in a long time. I'd have to go check it out again and see what the hubbub is about, because I don't remember it all that much.
I can't remember what it's on. I just watched it, honestly, like not too long ago. I was doing some work and wanted something on in the background and was watching some clips. Honestly, I don't think they should remake it so much as maybe do a sequel somehow, or remake it, but remake it to where it's not an exact, forget about the original, and maybe have the original guy that lost his hand, maybe have him have a cameo in it or something. I think that would be kind of, it's one of those things.
This is interesting. We're getting a documentary on the Twilight Zone, which would be fascinating. I think that's a show that people know. Like, obviously we know it because, it was airing at the time. I don't think it airs as much as it used to, or at least in regular circles. But it's a show that people are aware of.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like a term used in the zeitgeist to say, I'm in the Twilight Zone, or like something's not real or whatever. But I don't really know that much about it. So I think I would be fascinated to know more about the show and its makings, and especially about Rod Serling, because the most I've ever learned about him was in a documentary about the Planet of the Apes, because he wrote the screenplay for the original movie.
Yeah.
But even then, they didn't go into great detail about him. It was just his approach to writing the script, and how he was just like, why not, as opposed to doing what the book is doing. Let's kind of take some of the elements of what they're doing and morph it into something a little bit more on point for today. And obviously he did that stuff in the Twilight Zone, so that's not far-fetched. And it's such a good movie. If you've never watched the original Planet of the Apes, I swear to God, it is a great fucking movie. You say whatever you want about the prosthetics, they're flawless. It's a solid movie. I can watch it all the time. I love it so much. Let's see. Yeah, some more. Did you know we're getting a Y2K movie?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, a horror movie based on Y2K. So I'm assuming it's like it came off like a horror comedy. So I'm assuming they're going to flash back in time. It's like, what if everything went to shit, I guess. Could be fun.
If it's done right, yeah.
Done right, could be fun. Toxic Crusaders is getting digitally remastered for Blu-ray. So if you were a fan of that show and wanted it on Blu-ray, it's coming. When? I don't know. I didn't look into all that. But it's coming, man. It's coming. I'm sure Lloyd will let us know. There was a trailer for... I looked at it. I don't know if it would be up anybody's alley, but, this crowd would because of the people in it. Bloody Summer Camp 2 Red Horizon stars our very own favorite host, Joe Bob Briggs, along with Felissa Rose and Diana Prince and some other people. I think there was it felt like a lot of people that I was seeing, we've seen on the last drive-in. So it's almost like, and I even think one of the people who worked on it was one of the producers of the drive-in. So that explains a lot. So if you were looking for something involving these people, Bloody Summer Camp 2, Red Horizon, it's coming sometime next year. Keep your eyes open. And something I am excited for, did you ever play a game on the PlayStation 3 called Lollipop Chainsaw?
That name sounds familiar. I think I did.
A cheerleader and her boyfriend's zombie head is attached to her, and she's got a big chainsaw.
Okay.
She's got a little lollipop.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
There's a remastered version coming out, and it drops on December 2nd.
Oh, very nice.
I'm excited as fuck. I remember playing this as like one of the first games that I got on the PlayStation 3, because Studio51, if you're not familiar with video games, he's one of my all-time favorite designers. Like, he did this game series, and I have to remember that this is not my game podcast. This is the horror podcast. So I'm blending shit right now, so I have to remember people here don't know this stuff. He, Studio51, created this this game franchise that I absolutely love called No More Heroes. It's one of my all-time favorite franchises or trilogies of video games. That he was responsible for creating this as well, like he was the developer on it. Plus, James Gunn was the one who wrote the screenplay. And they cast a lot of people that he was familiar with, so he was actively involved in the creation of this. So you got two of my favorite people, one in film, one in games, coming together to make a game, and I fucking loved it. You couldn't ask for anything better.
Very nice. And you said that's December 2nd?
December 2nd. So called Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. So keep your eyes open if you want to check that out. It's a bloody good time. You know, if you're into if you want a game and you like some gory stuff, it's a lot of fun. Also, speaking of that, Ghostface is in Mortal Kombat 1 now, if that was something you wanted to see. I've actually been curious, though, if they actually address in the game, you know how sometimes like if you beat it in arcade mode or something like that, they'll have like a special ending for the character. I'm curious to know what the ending would be for Ghostface. Like, do they address who this Ghostface is? Or if it's never mentioned. So is it Billy? Is it Stu? Is it one of the new people? Is it Sydney's brother? Is it her niece? Who is it?
It'd be kind of cool if it was one of the Ghostface that are like dead, like they went to that realm. I've been seeing clips of it, though. There's one part where there's two killers, and one of them passes the knife to the other one. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of motions and things that remind you of the original killers in the original movies. So that would be interesting to know. I know Jason's story in Mortal Kombat, his ending is one of my favorites because they try to make him a deal. I think like Shao Kahn or somebody tries to offer him a deal, and he kills him.
Yeah. So like, you don't seem to know who you're fucking right now. He does not care. Lady Gaga is joining Wednesday season 2, so I don't know who she's playing. I just the announcement has come through.
I feel bad. I have not watched season 1.
Really?
Yeah, I still have not. We keep talking about watching it, and we still haven't. So I need to.
It was an interesting take on everything, and I really respected what they were trying to do with it, because I can understand where people might feel like it could be a little jarring because it feels a little different from the Addams Family that we're familiar with. But I think it was in regards to them trying to age them up just a little bit. Like, we saw them when they were youthful, but now Wednesday's becoming a teenager. You know, she's becoming a lady. So she has to mature a little bit.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? I think that's why it feels a little off, because they are trying to move them up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, try to evolve them in a way. So just allow yourself to kind of get into the groove of it, because they had to adjust. You know, you cannot have the same girl. You know, she's gonna have to evolve. She has to grow. You can't just keep her a one-note character.
Well, and I think that's a smart move, because whenever they try to do it, you know, with the kids being young and everything, I think a lot of people go back to the movie that came out in the, like, movies from the 90s. I think everybody goes there because it was just fantastic. You know, you've got all these amazing people playing these characters, and what is it? I always struggle with his name. Was it Raul Julia?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, he's the definitive Gomez.
I would agree. I mean, I love what's his name, John Aston and all, but I don't know, Raul Julia. He just, every little aspect of his Gomez is just perfect.
Yeah, you know, he made it his own, and so focusing on Wednesday was a smart move. Aging everybody up was also a smart move, and I think that's the best way to get away from that thought process that everybody has. Because when I think Addams Family, I think of Raul Julia, because he was just phenomenal. I mean, in everything that he was in. I mean, look at the Street Fighter movie. Not the best movie in the world, but he's fantastic in it.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
Plus, he has one of the coldest speeches ever in that movie when he's talking to the, I'm bad with names in movies, but when he's talking to the girl about, you know, the genocide of her people and killing all her family, and he looks at her and he's like, you know, it was such a big deal to her, blah blah blah, and he's like, for me it was just a Wednesday. I'm like, damn.
I know, that's the beauty of that movie, is how they tell those dark jokes. That's what I love about it so much. Is just everything has that subtle little dark tone to it, but it's expertly crafted and just delivered with such perfection. I love it so much.
And FYI, he might have said Tuesday. Just putting it out there. I can't remember.
Either way.
We're stuck on Wednesday, though. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. What else we got here? I didn't look into that one. Well, I know we've talked about this, but I haven't watched it. I don't know if you said you watched it or not. I can't remember. Under Paris. I think you said you were thinking about it. Or you heard about it.
I have watched some of it. I can't remember what was happening the day that I watched it. I was having a hard time focusing on it.
Sure. Well, they're making a sequel, so apparently it did well enough to Warner or garner a sequel, which is funny considering that's Netflix, since, you know, some shit can't even exist over there anymore. What did they cancel here recently that we were watching? We got so fucking mad. We were watching something and they up and canceled it. And I should have, Chaos with Jeff Goldblum. He was like Zeus. It was a great idea, great concept. Like, he sold me on it. Jeff Goldblum did. I heard him on an interview and he was talking about it. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. I'm down. Jeff Goldblum is Zeus. Done. And I watch it. I'm like, this is great. I can't wait to see more. And then, what you know, 2 weeks later, canceled. Fuck you, Netflix. And your stupid ass Jake Paul fight. That was rigged if I ever saw it. Anyway, what else we got here? I didn't send this to you. I got to send it to you right now. In fact, because if I don't, I'm doing a disservice to you. You know what I mean? And I feel like I should do this. Here, I'll just send you because it'll be easier that way. And I know, hang on, Ramblers. I got to do this for him because he needs to see it. It's a damn shame he hasn't seen it already. And if you know what I'm talking about, you'd understand, and you'd be championing me to just show it to him. Because he's got to see it. He's got to see it. Did it come?
I'm waiting.
Send it.
There it goes.
There we go. Thank you.
See what we're looking at here.
Yeah, look at all these. So Fright Rags is doing a 40th anniversary of Nightmare on Elm Street. T-shirts abound. Holy crap, are there some awesome designs in that lot. Like, you have no idea how hard it was not to buy 2 T-shirts yesterday. Because I really did want to. Because those are some badass designs. So, yeah, it's getting rough out there. So, yeah, here we go.
Oh, they even have the baseball tees. Of course, the hoodies are already sold out.
Yeah, it's always what pisses me off, man. They disappear so fast. So
the Phantom Prowl, that's badass.
Yeah, it is really bad.
Man.
So there you go. Something to look at, something to consider. Maybe if you see one on there you want and they don't have it, try to request a reprint or something, maybe. Because that's a shame that they're already sold out. They just dropped that shit yesterday. Here is a fun detail. And I feel like this is not a new thing per se, and you'll know why I'm saying that, but still neat regardless. Predator Badlands, which is the next film in the Predator franchise, but following Prey, if you are aware of that film. Anyway, Badlands will feature a Predator as the protagonist.
Really?
So that'll be fun. So we actually get to root for a Predator. Now, I say that's not something new, because if you're being fair, we did kind of root for a Predator in Alien vs. Predator twice, sort of. So
yeah,
I would just say maybe, that could be taken out of context. You could argue against that, but yeah, that's happening. Are you looking forward to Jurassic World or Jurassic Park 7 or whatever the fuck you're gonna call it?
I've kind of gotten off the hype of it, if I'm being completely honest. I love Jurassic Park. I loved the first Jurassic World, but I don't know. I've lost my love for it because I feel like they're just, at this point, they're like, we can make these movies about dinosaurs and we can make lots of money off of them, and it's
we can just do whatever.
Yeah, it's killing it for me. Like I said, I wish that they would do a series, make it more true to the books. You don't even have to call it Jurassic Park. You can think of a different name. Just call it Jurassic or something like that.
It's no different than what they're doing with Nosferatu.
Yeah,
Same thing. Yeah, just make your own little version. Just tweak.
Yeah, I think that they should do one that pulls more from the book, because the book is horrific. And they could do a dark. I mean, just think about that. A dinosaur horror series. I could get behind that.
I think 65, that movie with Adam Driver, could have been that if they had sold it differently.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But where are we? Yeah, so Jurassic Park, the reason I brought it up, Rebirth is the next movie in the franchise. Apparently it is filming. It's happening. There's images now. I didn't think that I hated the Jurassic Park franchise until I did Podcasters Assemble, and I went through each and every one and realized each film kind of goes diminishing returns, picks back up with Jurassic World, and then does it again.
Yeah.
Even worse. I like the first 3. I like Jurassic World. But then it's just like they said, fuck it.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then
they could have left it at They could have left it at Jurassic World at the first one. And I would have been the happiest guy in the world because I'm with you. I loved the first three. And then you hear that they're doing Jurassic World and you're like, please pay tribute to the original. Please do that. And they did. And they did it beautifully, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like the perfect little bow on the present that was the Jurassic Park franchise. And they're like, we're doing another one. And I'm like, what? Come on.
Yeah. They're going to keep milking that cow as long as they're making money off of it. And I'm honestly surprised they are still making money on it.
Yeah, and
I don't get it.
Like I said, if they did a horror version that was a show, I feel like they could make money off of it. And it would be something fresh. It would be something new. And you'd get a lot of people that would be like, what is going on? And then it'd be like, read the book. And then people would read the book and be like, I do not know Jurassic Park at all.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it in a way that is meaningful. People are going to have to tell me it's great for me to just jump out and watch it. I probably will, unless I hear it is an absolute turd. At that point, I'm at an age where I don't really give a shit if I miss a movie. You know?
Right.
If I don't see it, it's fine. I'm not going to die. Did you watch, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, Hysteria on Peacock?
I have not yet.
Okay. It features Bruce Campbell would be the selling point, I guess, for a lot of people, even though he's not like the main character per se, but he is in the entire series. So for people, I'll go ahead and minor spoiler, but not really a spoiler. He survives. I thought he was going to die, you know? So just put that as a safety net if you were worried that Bruce Campbell was going to die in the show. He doesn't. He's perfectly safe.
He's the sheriff in that, right?
Yes.
I remember seeing a clip of it where somebody's talking about, like, someone escaped a mental institution and Bruce Campbell kind of, like, laughs about it. He's like, somebody's pulling a trick on you. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing the clip of that. I have not watched that yet, but I need to. I also need to watch that Real Nightmares on Elm Street that you told me about because I've been reading about the episode, but I've not pulled the trigger yet because I'm trying to see if Samantha wants to watch them with me because she likes those like true crime things. So
sure. So I'm gonna touch on both of those. So Hysteria, the reason I brought it up is I guess Bruce Campbell's talking about I guess some things for season 2. So far as I know, there's gonna be season 2. I'm curious to see how they're gonna do a season 2 because I felt like and I feel like this is actually okay that they did it this way. I felt like they tied everything up perfectly in season 1, but then maybe like left little breadcrumbs for a season 2 without doing too much. And I felt like that was perfect. So it doesn't detract from the story that we got, but you're also laying breadcrumbs for a potential follow-up if we get there. So as far as I know, it's happening. I haven't heard cancellation plans. So if you haven't checked out Hysteria, check it out. But I have seen The Real Murders on Elm Street. I highly recommend it to anybody. I personally am... I don't go out of my way for true crime, you know what I mean? But if it's intriguing enough, I can get into it. And the stories, they intrigued me enough that like once you kind of get into it, because the Elm Street thing is the hook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of your end because you're like, okay, so you're selling me on this pitch of Elm Street murders, okay. And they aren't really the focus, but it is kind of coincidental when you listen to all these stories, like how they always seem to wind up on Elm Street. Like it's weird, you know? And I think that's kind of what they're pointing out. But overall, it is really about the stories, the murders and everything. And these are... How do I say that? I don't want to say fascinating as if I'm like intrigued, like, oh my God, these people died. Can you believe it? Not like that. They're fascinating cases on how everything played out and how the killer was caught.
Yeah.
Nothing about them seem black and white, cut and dry, like somebody killed somebody and then the next thing you know, someone was like, oh, found the killer. Not that clear cut. Like all these stories had like these little twists or something in them that would really kind of catch you off guard or twist it one way. However, I will say, if for those of you who have not watched it, but maybe you're thinking about it now, I want to warn you about one episode, and I think it was the 5th or the 6th. It was one of the last ones, but it involved a man sitting in his house and he shot burglar. Okay, that's all I'll say about it. But there was audio of the actual incident and they played it, and I didn't know how I was going to react, but when you actually hear it, it like really got to me. Like I wasn't I wasn't sure how I would react, but like it did not set right with me. Like it was rough. So just be aware, like that one really hit hard. Like some of the rest, depending on how you manage how the stories are told and like when I say they show crime scene footage or photos or stuff like that, like they don't show the murdered body, but they would show crime scene photos of maybe like blood splatter evidence, things like that. So it's not super graphic in some ways, but you do have details that can be graphic, so just be aware. But I think that might be all the news I have.
Okay.
Anything else? Yep. Oh, yeah. I'll go ahead and bring this up because I felt like we did this already, and I don't know why we're doing this again. But I guess a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night is in the works.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm, again, not sure, because wasn't there kind of a remake a few years, like 10, 15 years ago?
I
think it was just called Silent Night, but I thought it was supposed to be like
it was like
this.
Years way later, I think. The killer was like escaped or something and was stalking them. It was something like that.
And I felt like it had like what's his name? Hear his voice, see his face. He's the guy from Clockwork Orange.
Michael McDowell?
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell. Yes, he was in there. He was the sheriff. He was the sheriff who was after the Santa Claus. I've never tried to do his voice, and now I want to play with it. He's actually not too far off from Matt Berry. They're kind of in the same.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
They're kind of in that same area. Huh. Interesting. But yeah.
Now, because I know what you're talking. I'm going to look this up.
Please do.
Yeah, right here, Silent Night. It came out in 2012. Let's see here.
2012. Okay, yeah.
Let's see here. Police force of a remote Midwestern town search for a killer Santa Claus who was picking off citizens on Christmas Eve.
And I felt like that was kind of a take on it, like a remake of sorts, or at least that's what it was told, but they were just like, it is, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
So, for whatever that's worth.
I think Christmas horror films they're difficult. They really are. There's just something about them. I think they can do them right. I know there's a horror film they did not too long ago about killer elves.
Yeah, what was it? Something in the barn or something like that.
Yeah, there's a few of them, but I think it was called something.
I know what you're talking about.
It's just
because I was trying to remember it too, because I felt like we'd seen a trailer for it. Was it last year?
Might have been. Yep, there's something in the barn, 2023.
So how did we miss that last year? And then I saw it on something this year, and I was like, oh shit, I got to check that out. So I wanted to. Well, I'll be damned. Huh? Okay.
I mean, there's all kinds of. I don't know. I just to me, the Killer Santa thing is entertaining. What was the one that we talked about last year or the year before? The robot Santa.
Bloody, what was it, like Bloody Christmas or something like that?
I think that's right.
That sounds right. But yeah, the robot Santa, it comes to life.
Oh, speaking of Christmas and horror, the new Terrifier film, Art kills a kid in the beginning. They don't show it.
I'm surprised, to be honest.
Apparently, David Howard Thornton said that was not David Howard Thornton. That's the guy that plays Art.
Damon Leone?
Yes. Apparently, that's one line he doesn't want to cross, is actually showing the slayings of the children. But
good.
Art gives out Christmas presents at the mall as Santa. One of the kids opens a gift, and there's a huge fiery explosion. So he kills a bunch of kids at the mall, too, with explosive...
Okay.
I have to admit, though, there was something funny. They did an interview with David Howard Thornton, and there's a scene in it where there's a little girl hiding in one of the cabinets in the kitchen, and Art hears her. And in the scene, he opens the door, and he looks down and he smiles at her. Well, somebody at one of the press things, they asked David Howard Thornton, they're like, do you think that girl survived? And David Howard Thornton was like, oh, no. Art had a kid's meal.
Shit.
No hesitation. None at all. But he did do an interview, too, not too long ago. Found out that, from what David Howard Thornton said, Art the Clown was human in the first movie.
Okay.
The supernatural element kicked in when he got brought back. A demon had attached itself to him, and that's who the little girl was in the second. She was the demon in a form that Art could see. Takes a different form in this movie. But I guess they're also, in one of the interviews that they did, they said, so what does Art do? What did Art do when he was human? What was his typical day like? What kind of guy was Art? And David Howard Thornton said, I can't say yet. apparently in the next movie, they are going to get into his history a little bit more.
Okay.
So I hope they don't try to redeem him. I hope they don't give him some weird backstory. I hope he's just bad.
Yeah. I mean, for the shit that he's done, if he's at all given a sympathetic angle, it ruins everything.
Yeah.
Because he is too far fucking psychotic to be
He's very
sympathetic at all.
Yeah, he's very Freddy Krueger in that regard. Like, Freddy's not redeemed.
Right.
And I don't think are redeemed. So, but anyways, here I am going on. You talk about a movie? I want to talk about a movie.
Let's talk about a movie.
We watched a movie, and it's a suggestion of yours. So I will let you kind of get into the beginning here. I've seen this movie one other time before, so last night I kind of gave her a watch, and yeah, I'll let you kind of do your thing though, and then we'll kind of.
Well, I'm very eager to hear your thoughts on this film because this is a favorite of mine that I think a lot of it comes down to nostalgia. It came into my life at a time when I was very impressionable, and I would almost guarantee you that a lot of elements in this movie drifted into things that I was creating on my own in some way, shape, or form, because, I don't know, there was just something about this film that it hit every beat. But we are talking about Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. Would probably be listed as the worst Ghoulies movie had not been for Ghoulies 4, which takes that title. It can keep it, because fuck that movie. But the reason I say that people might think that of this film is because it is so jarringly different from the first two. So I get it, but I would argue that this is a film that just forget any and every connections to any other fucking thing. Don't worry about it. Just go in with, hey, let's watch a creature feature that's kind of silly, that's not offensive, that's just whatever. It's just a silly, goofy, kind of horror, but not really comedy. A sex romp comedy with some Three Stooges mixed in for good measure, you know, and some horror element and some Looney Tunes elements. It's a blender. They just threw shit into a pot and just said, let's see what happens. And I think it's a wild mix of fun. John Carl Buechler, he's the guy that directed this. He, for people who you might question, be like, well, what actually of his movies have I actually seen? I guarantee you've seen Friday the 13th Part 7. He directed that. And he is one of, as I understand it, Kane Hodder's, like somebody, they were close while he was alive. So I think Kane worked with him on a lot of stuff. Kane was actually in this movie. Did you notice?
I think I missed it.
He was right at the beginning. There was a scene with the mop bucket where they unhook the mop bucket and the mop bucket goes down the stairs, and then there was a guy who fell into the mop bucket. He was the guy who fell into the mop bucket.
That's right. That's right. Now that you're saying it, man.
So, yeah, if you want to see a young, youthful Kane Hodder, there you go. Go check him out in that, because this would have been... He had just started playing Jason at that point. Like, he had probably done, the 2 at that point? So he had done... Yeah, because 1990, that would have been... 7 and 8 would have already been out.
This movie came out the year I was born.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. So, as I've said, I love this movie. John Carl Buechler was actually the original creator of the Ghoulies. So I think that also speaks to his take on these characters and why it is what it is. What's your thoughts, man? And you're not going to upset me if it's not your cup of tea.
No, actually. So I mean this in the best of ways. Have you ever watched something that's just so bad it's good? So just campy that it's great? I don't even want to say this movie's bad because I don't find it bad. I think it's campy. It's Three Stooge-esque, as you were saying.
Very.
To me, this movie screamed late 80s, early 90s because you're showing like every stereotype you can think of. Like the frat guys being idiots. There's tons of boobs. Over the top, you know. I don't even want to say this movie's gory because it's not really that gory.
The violence in this is cartoonish.
Yes. And
very cartoonish. That's why I said the Looney Tunes aspect.
Honestly, one of my favorite parts in this movie is when they're all standing on each other's shoulders in the shower, and they take the plunger to the girl's face, and they pull it, and her face stretches out.
Get the...
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. No, I actually, I really enjoyed this movie, and I knew I was going to enjoy it. I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens here. I'm bad with the names for characters, but obviously the green ghoulie, who I'm not sure what he is exactly, some kind of lizard frog type thing.
They referred to him as a fish. I don't really see, like, I'm like you, like, when I saw fish ghoulie as, like, his listing, I was like, fish?
Yeah. No,
Right.
to me, he's almost like a frog, and then the one is like a rat, and the other one's like a cat, is what I was...
Yeah, now those two are, more defined.
Yeah, but he's their leader, and when he bangs their heads together, and you get that classic, like, Three Stooges sound, I was sold. I was sold, like, there. It's over the, like, all the characters I feel are over the top. Like, they're like, I feel like when they got when they got directed for this film, they were like, hey, take the role that you're playing and do it as over the top. I got a perfect example. It's almost like Nick Cage was directing for a second.
Okay.
Because I feel like everybody's kind of over the top, but not in a bad way. I feel like it lends itself to the movie, because if you would have had, like, one really serious person in this movie,
yeah,
with the absurdity of it, it would have ruined it for me. But everybody is so... It really does. It plays out like a Three Stooges episode. It's the Looney Tunes. And for me, that was like... I wanted more of it for that reason. I wanted to see more of what was going on. And the Ghoulies themselves were almost like the frat boys. They were, having fun. They were watching the ladies in the shower when they shouldn't have been. Kevin McCarthy, I love in that.
Yeah.
He was... I'm glad that, spoiler warning for anybody, I'm glad that he became basically the ghoulie,
God. Or
yeah,
whatever.
I don't have a better way to put it. That's actually a great way to put it. He became like the ghoulie god, because at first he couldn't believe what was going on. And then he turned into, like, there was a point I'm sitting there watching it and I go, man, this guy fits in with them perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he was...
I don't know who you could have gotten else to play this character, and I'm glad they got him too, because this could easily have been like a role. A lot of the actors in this movie are good actors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The cast is superb for the time. So to have someone who I consider someone with a little bit of pedigree behind him in this film, I think elevates it a little bit, because he was a fixture at the time. I remember seeing him in a lot of movies at this time.
Yeah.
So...
And I'm looking
back on it.
And I'm looking at the cast of the film right now, and I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people that I've seen in other things. I don't know if I just missed him. Matthew Lillard was in this.
This was his very first movie. He was a background character to the Beta Zeta Theta gang.
That's why he wasn't in this as Matthew Lillard. He was in it as Matthew Lynn.
Yeah.
So,
but he's there. He's just kind of he's got glasses. He's big, tall, lanky, and got a little bowl cut. Yeah. And he's just off in the background. Like, I don't even think he says a line that's his.
I got you.
He's just always with the guys.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. The Goonies, the Ghoulies themselves. As weird as it sounds, I think my favorite one out of them was the cat. I don't know what it was about him. I love when, and the thing that really made me like him, and it's probably the dumbest it's the littlest thing, but it's when they open the fridge and there's all the beer in the fridge, and he's like, I'll just take one, and he grabs the one at the bottom, and then they all fall, and it's like after they all fall, they're all like, we might as well get drunk, and they drink all the beer, and then to me, he's just the typical fat guy of the trio. He's sitting there, he's eating all the food, and like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm eating. Like, I don't know what it is about him. But for some reason, he was the one that I tended to laugh a lot more at the things he was doing, because he was even when and I'm gonna look his name up here, Professor Ragnar, who is Kevin McCarthy. When Professor Ragnar summons them by accident, and he's in the like jar of donuts, and he's like, you got any crepes in here? Like, it's just so random that it made it entertaining. In all honesty, if they wanted to bring this back in some capacity, I would love to see it as like a little mini series or something.
Sure, yeah.
And make it a little bit, make it a little dark, just slightly, but still have that comedy in it, because perfect way to put it. I feel like these are guys that Freddy would have hung out with toward the end of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Sure,
because of all the one-liners.
Yeah. I feel like they let the voice cast of these three, because this was something I didn't realize until much later in life. Who did the voices of the Ghoulies?
I was going to ask you that, so.
Blew my fucking mind when I found out who did the voices. So first off, with the fish ghoulie was Patrick Penny. All three of them are voice actors. Patrick Penny, I think, is the one that I know. His name is one I don't really know all that well, but I know I've heard his voice. Like, you go through his filmography, he's Painty the Pirate in SpongeBob as far as like the most recent thing. But if you start going back through, deeper cuts, he was like the Cyclops in Hercules. You remember that dopey fucking Cyclops?
Yeah.
He was the Cyclops. Just so many goddamn thing. The Thing in Spider-Man, Fang Ding in Mulan, just on and it's a lot. There's at least 100 fucking credits to go through. So he did a lot. Bob Bergen, who did the Rat, he's most famous today for doing Porky Pig. He's the one who actually has that job. Like, I don't think another voice actor has taken that from him since he took it.
Okay.
So he is Porky Pig. And then finally, Richard Kind did the Cat Ghoulie. Now, that's a guy who is just all over the place now. Just showing up and whatever. Here I am. I'm Richard Kind. You invited me to your show. Here I am. What do you want? I love the man so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, him being the Cat Ghoulie, it works. And you can hear it. Once you realize that's him, it's like, fuck, why didn't I hear it?
Right. No, but yeah, I did really enjoy this. And like I said, there's a level of absurdity to it, even the way that they summon them. Like, it's a comic and they come out of a toilet. Like,
yeah,
it's simple, it's absurd. I don't need a whole big story for it.
But you have to think about it from the perspective of John Carl Buechler, because I'm gonna assume this was like his. Because I really wish we could talk to him, because I want to talk to him about this and the whole process. Because I would assume, since he created the Ghoulie, like, these were his creations. Now, he didn't, as far as I know, he didn't write the story of the original. He just designed the creatures. So maybe as he was designing the creatures, he was like, you know what, I've got an idea. What would be fun? This would be kind of fun, and that would be kind of. So he maybe had an idea in his head of this fun, silly idea to do with the Ghoulie. And then at the same time, he was constricted with the toilet aspect, because that was just kind of part of it. And he was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm going to have to get him out of there. And then how do we summon him? Because none of this ties into the other movie. None of it.
Yeah.
This is a standalone Ghoulies film that has fuck all to do with any of them. And I'm okay with it. Because, to be fair, none of the other movies really, with the exception of 2. 2 and 3 are the only two that I really care for, Yeah. Like 1 and 4, that whole thing doesn't do it for me. 2 is entertaining because it goes back to, it's more of a typical creature feature like Gremlins.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. This, I feel like, is trying to do something completely different. Creature features at the time, we had Critters, Ghoulies, Gremlins, Munchies, whatever the fuck. So Carl Buechler comes in and he's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And they're going to be Three Stooges, and we're just going to have a fun sex comedy romp that are popular at the time, because those, again, were very popular at the time. We had so many sex romp comedies, and they lasted up until, the early 2000s, where they just seemed to peter out.
Yep.
And we haven't had hardly any since. And, look, I understand people, PC, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I personally feel like this is a very unoffensive movie. There's nothing in it that I can think would be problematic. I understand the panty raid stuff, the frat stuff probably wouldn't fly today. Understandable. But at the time, I'm not trying to justify boys will be boys. It's not like there was any kind of rape
right.
or anything like that. I mean, the closest we got to any kind of creepy characters, if you think about it, was the cop or the security guard, Officer Barkus, when he was asking the girls, who was it? He went to shit. What's the girl's name? The girlfriend, Erin. There we go, Erin. I remembered before I got to it. Ha ha. But he was talking to Erin, and he was like, they're gonna do a panty raid tonight and everything. But if you can give me your, I can keep them safe. And you're just like, what, dude? Fuck off, man. I can give them back to you on Monday or Tuesday or whenever. Sure. So there was a tinge of that creep. essence in here, but at least it was minimal, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Movies of this time, you would have had people like him just being creeps all around. That was the one and only scene out of this entire movie where there was a creep. And the only other asshole in this movie outside of Ragnar, which he's just mad with power, evil corrupts, as he says. Heilman, the Gamma King prankster or whatever the fuck. Was it just me? And I think this is also a trope of the time. This dude was like one step away from serial killer.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Like he was really just about ready to fucking kill somebody. Because at least Skip and his gang had like a code that they followed.
Right.
You prank, you know, have some fun, but you don't hurt anybody. You don't vandalize anything. It's all about the prank.
Yeah.
You know, and I got you, but it's not hurting anybody. But this guy just elevates. It's like, I'm going to fucking blow shit up. I'm going to destroy this thing. I'm going to kill you. Because he literally said that. They catch, like, half-ass into the movie, they catch him and Aaron in a hallway and said, hey, there's been a murder. And he's like, Ben, it's past tense. It's not happened yet. And I was like, oh, okay, so you just admit you want to kill this guy. All right. It's fucking weird.
Oh, yeah.
So
there seems to be like one character in every movie like this that is just way out there. You know, I don't know why this just crossed my mind, but with the way the Ghoulies act, I just thought of what would be one of the most hilarious crossovers ever. Instead of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, it's Tucker and Dale versus the Ghoulies.
holy shit.
Like,
that's the crossover we need.
I could just see that. Just imagine the Ghoulies killing a bunch of college kids and Tucker and Dale are there. Like,
Yeah.
I could see that. Just because this is a rare form of horror comic. And,
Yes.
you know, if they were to tweak this movie to release today and make some changes to it, you know, I'm sure if you look at the score, like I'm on IMDb just to have the cast in front of me. You know, it only got a 4.2 or something out of 10, I think it is. You know, so a lot of people would look at it and be like, I'm not going to watch that. A 4.0 out of 10.
Sure.
But it's great for what it is. It doesn't take itself too serious, but you can tell that everybody that's performing in the movie is having fun with it. I know we've said that before on film. You know, you can tell when the cast is having fun and when they're not. So go ahead with what you were saying.
But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Everyone is in it. There's not a bad performance in this movie at all.
No.
Like, everybody is acting to the best of their ability. They're not overdoing it. They're in the moment. They're owning it. And like we said, you've got some good pedigree. If you take a look at the careers of every one of these actors, they've gone on to at least do, I'm not saying like big things, but they've been active actors.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part. I mean, obviously we know where Matthew Lillard went, and I know Eva LaRue, she was the one who played Erin. She's done a lot of soap operas and you know, day or nighttime, primetime television shows. Same with the guy that played Skip and Mookie. I mean, these are talented actors and actresses. I mean, this is not people phoning it in. Hell, the secretary, Marcia Wallace. If people don't know her by name, you've heard her voice. She's fucking Mrs. Krabappel, okay? And they even, I don't even know if I told you this or not, or if you caught it, but they referenced her, like they did a meta joke in the film before they killed her, because she jumps back and she freaks out and starts screaming, like, hey, aren't you famous? And then some guy goes, yeah, she was on Newhart. And she was. So
See, I love
little
that.
jokes like that. Yeah, little jokes like that you might not hear, but they're in there. And they just kind of, they don't focus on them.
Yeah.
They're just like subtly in the background that you could miss. So
Well, and that's the thing. Like, this movie was probably slept on at the time, because I feel like at this time, movies like this, people didn't understand that the movie wasn't taking itself too serious. The movie was just having fun. And if you can sit and you can have fun with it, then it doesn't have to be the best story. It doesn't have to be some life-changing experience. If you're sitting there and you're having a laugh and you're enjoying it, that's worthwhile.
yeah.
And
I think this is a lot of fun that you can have.
yeah, and you know, I was just looking back, because I can't remember if I've ever seen the first Ghoulies, to tell you the truth.
It's been a long time
And
for me.
I was looking at pictures from it, and it looks just a lot going on. A lot more than needs to be going on is going on. I like these characters, though. I will say that too. Like, they're little monsters, but they're hilarious. And
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, like I said, if they were to in some capacity re-release this today somewhere, I think it would be hilarious. Maybe not a movie, maybe a series, and it could be a limited series. But to have those three little monsters just go out and do a bunch of crazy things, I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I even think it would be great to do a. Doesn't even have to be Tucker and Dale. It could just be Ghoulies versus Rednecks.
Yeah.
Like, that would be hilarious. And I like, one of my favorite things in this movie was when they first appear, you know, they don't have any clothing on or anything, and then the clothes fall on them and they all come out and they're dressed. And I feel like their personalities sort of, I don't want to say like changed majorly, but they had clothes on, so they were kind of acting like frat boys because they were dressed like frat boys. So it'd be,
and they had very unique styles that kind of defined them in some ways too, which I liked.
And I just now I'm imagining like same thing. They end up in like redneck clothes, and you hear them doing like redneck accents and trying to be, you know, funny and make redneck jokes. Like, I feel like these little monsters would adapt with the times. Sure. You know, I never had a moment where I was annoyed by them or anything watching it. I just found them hilarious as they went about their project. Because really, if you think about it, they really are like gremlins. They're more vocal. They can talk. They can have conversations. The gremlins, you know, yeah, they say a couple words, but they're not like these guys. Yeah. So, you know, anything that has to do with gremlins and critters and things like that, I can get behind. And I feel like the Ghoulies are kind of a combination of the two. You know, they are their own thing, but if you want to compare them to something, they are kind of like if gremlins and critters were like, hey, these are my evil cousins.
Sure.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about if this, you know, were to come back in some capacity, because
well,
I could get
while we
behind
are on that subject, this is actually something I did want to bring up, because I did actually get to check out Frankie Frico, which I had mentioned before was supposed to be paying homage to this.
Yeah.
And I definitely see the homage. Like, I won't say it's like a one-to-one comparison movie, like it's the same thing or anything like that. Nothing at all like that. But I understand the paying homage to movies like this, where you have, in that movie, you have three characters very much in the same way of the Ghoulies, where they come in, they have their personalities, and then they create whatever chaos, you know, in that aspect. So I see what they were trying to do. And even going a step further to that, paying homage, is there was a song in the movie. And when I heard, like, I think they played it in the middle of the movie and then toward the end, and it was just like this rocket, like, party to, da, 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 da. And I'm sitting there listening to it and going, that sounds familiar. But then I was listening to the lyrics, and I thought, well, that's not the lyrics I remember. But then I found the song on the movie that they played at the end credits for Ghoulies 3. Same tune, different lyrics.
Okay.
Almost like they couldn't find the track because it's never been released. So they just did their own version of it. And I thought, well, fuck yeah, that's interesting. I did a little digging. That song is nowhere to be found. I don't know why. So I did a little, I kind of created my own version of it, combining the two elements. So if you want a copy of it, anybody, if you're a fan of that song.
You'll have to send it to me so I can give it a listen.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
I just thought, you know, it's a catchy tune.
I just looked up the cover for Frankie Frico, and I can you can see the similarities there too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it is about like little monsters that talk and have bad attitudes, but they make for great movie.
Sure. And you know what? I'll even say that. If you have seen Frankie Frico and you have not heard or seen Ghoulies 3, but you liked Frankie Frico, if you like that, you'll like this.
Yeah.
And same with Ghoulies 3. If you like that, you'll love Frankie Frico. I can almost guarantee you that. So definitely check them out.
I'm going to have to watch Frankie Frico now, too. And I don't know if you've looked at like the pictures on IMDb of, they've got like some behind the scenes pictures of some characters with the Ghoulies puppets. Yeah. You can just tell everybody on the, like I had said earlier, everybody on this film was having a good time. So, you know,
I mean, why wouldn't you have a good time? You're making a silly ass movie. Just own it, man. Enjoy it. I don't know. I just, so much about this movie, and just the designs of the Ghoulies themselves. We didn't even talk about that. I feel like these three designs are the best they've ever been. Like, hands down. They have not looked any better than the way they look in this movie.
Yeah, I actually, so before I watched 3, I was looking up all of the characters, and it looks like in 3 they made them a little bit bigger. And they really, I mean, they really refined them down, you know? Because from what it looked like even in the first one, there are like multiple little creatures that look like the fish ghoulie, as they call him. And some of them are just like, you look back at pictures from the first film, a lot of them they all look like one-offs of each other. But this one, it's like they gave them all their own unique look, their own unique, you know, to fit with their own unique personalities. So I would definitely agree with you there. They look fantastic. And, you know, again, practical effects, you know, they're just the way to go. And one thing that I would love to bring up real quick that I think this film did really well. Yes, the Ghoulies they're goofy little creatures. But when they change the lighting in this movie slightly, they start to look kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And you get to see that more like monstrous side of them. And I'm glad that they did that because that just sells it for me. You know, it's okay that they're goofy, that they're funny, but don't forget that they're monster. Like, keep that, you know, as part of it. Like, I don't know if you have anything loaded up, but if you get the chance to like go on IMDb and look, I'm looking at a picture of the cat and the fish right now. And the lighting is dimmer and they've got like a yellow kind of above them shining down. They look scary as hell. Like, would probably give kids nightmares. And I'm glad that they did that because while they are, again, like I said, while they are, you know, goofy little creatures that do one-liners, they're also monsters. So they have to be scary. There has to be that that appeal to them. And, you know, there's enough parts in the movie where you can tell that they're evil little monsters, but you can also laugh at them. I think one of my favorite, I had a lot of favorite moments, but another moment that I really like is the one girl in this, and again, I'm bad with names. She's dancing in her room with her bra and her underwear.
Oh, yeah. Hope Carlton. Yeah. Veronica. Ronnie. Yeah.
And the guy is watching her from the tree, and then you hear the saw, and he falls, and they're all laughing about it, and they're watching her. You know, that's
classic Looney Tunes shit.
Yeah, you know. But
he had it coming.
Yeah, and you know, but you see them and you're like, what's going to happen here? And then, you know, you move over to another scene, they're trying to rip somebody's throat out. Yeah. You know, it's
now little things that they do that crack me up, especially in that scene. I think it was when they were at the window and she was just sitting there dancing, songs playing or whatever, and they're just sitting there like that. I guess it's just the attitude that's going through his head. Like, it's just too much. The rat can't take it, and he just starts smashing his head into the other guys instead of like it's just da, 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 da. I don't know. It cracks me up with the sound effect and all.
I love how this with the shower scene real quick too, just because the picture just popped up on here. You know, after they pull the plunger and her face stretches and they let go, I love how it's just feet up in the air.
Yeah, like she...
Yeah, you know.
Whip back.
And that's just such a cartoon thing, and they've all got these evil little smiles on their face, like, yeah, we did that, yeah. I'm like, you can't beat it. It's just... Yeah. Horror comedy is a genre that does not get talked about.
And this, in my opinion, is one of the best versions of a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Because it's so unique. I could not tell you another movie that is like this outside of the one recently that I just brought up that is paying homage to this movie.
Yeah.
Before this movie, after this movie, until Frankie Frico. Couldn't tell you another movie like it because there's not. It's this odd blend of things that just work.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like a lot of the negativity comes from the fact that people wanted something more like Ghoulies 2, which I can understand. But for whatever reason, I had watched Ghoulies. I had watched Ghoulies 2. I was a fan of the series at this point. So when this came out and it said go to college, I was like, weird. Okay, I'm in. I didn't care. At 10 years old, why would I care? I shouldn't have been watching this at 10 years old, but I did. And as I said earlier, I said that, you know, this film, I guess in some ways inspired some things for me. Like, I'll even say how much it inspired. There was a time when I used to write little comic strips and things like that and create all my little characters. There was a cop that I created called Officer Barkus, so paying homage to the security guard here. And then I did these alien characters in this one story, and there was like 6 of them, and 3 of them favored these 3 ghoulies.
Yeah.
So one kind of looked like the fish, one looked like the cat, one looked like the rat. So paying homage, tipping my hat, saying, "Oh yeah, these alien creatures, they're those guys."
Yeah.
So yeah, this film inspired a lot for me as a kid.
You know, it's kind of funny on a random note. When I saw the rat for the first time while I was watching this, I kind of laughed to myself, and I was like, I guess Splinter has a younger brother that's got behavior problems, because it made me think of the Ninja Turtles for whatever reason. But just a funny little like side note there. I don't know. I feel like designs of characters kind of pick and pull from each other for a lot of things, and that just really reminded me of that. But I would put this film, like if I was watching horror comedies, I would definitely put this on my list. Like, I have some go-tos that I really like. They're very random. Like, I love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Yep. I'll consider that a horror comedy. I love Tucker and Dale versus Evil. To me, that's like just one of the best horror comedies. Definitely put this on the list. I'm trying to think. There's another film that I like. There's a Robert Englund movie that I like really well. It's a horror comedy. I think it's called the Mole Man of Belmont Avenue. He's only in like part of it. He's like the pervy neighbor, but these guys find this thing that's eating all the pets in the apartment building.
Well, since you brought him up, I want to throw this out there real quick, just so we can tip that hat to John Beekler as well. He did some makeup effects. Very specifically, he did the aged Alice makeup, the chest of souls for Freddy, and the pizza in Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Very nice.
So he was very prolific in special effects. Directing wasn't something he did very often, but very heavy into special effects. So it shows with this film, because he put everything into it, like all the effects and everything. They did not skimp as far as the puppeteering work and all that jazz.
Yeah, and you know, I don't care what anybody would say. Watching this movie, it holds up really well, I think, even today.
When I watched it the first time, after it had been some time, when I finally found it, I was ecstatic, but I was concerned. I was like, is it going to hold up? Is it going to hit the same way? And I was surprised how well it just kind of washed over me, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's still good.
And, you know, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. There are some little parts that you notice, you know, you notice a few little things, but it's not bad, like, at all. And, you know, like I said, even if they were to do, like, another film or do some kind of revamping and create something today, I would hope that they would, you know, stick with the puppets.
Sure, yeah.
Of course.
100%.
Now, of course, you know, I'm not going to say that, you know, they can't mix in a little bit of CGI if they want, because, like we've always said, the two together, practical and CGI together, is just perfect.
Yeah.
You know, actually, speaking of that, I was thinking about the Chucky movie the other day, and I watched a few of them. And in the original films, you know, when they would show Chucky running or something, they would have a short person. I'll just say a short person because I don't want to offend anybody.
Sure.
You know, they'd have them with like a little makeshift Chucky outfit on, running around. Yeah, it works, but sometimes they're bigger than the doll. You know.
Right.
So it seems kind of cheesy. And then I watched, is it the Curse of Chucky? And they use CGI to make the walking Chucky in some parts. Other parts, they did still have a person. But I think it actually added to the film. You know, a lot of people were worried that making certain parts CGI would be bad.
Yeah.
But it made Chucky seem unnatural in a good way. And so I feel like doing something like that with these characters, if they were to do like a modern take on it, would be great. Plus, you know, seeing the way that they act, I would love to see the Ghoulies get a hold of a cell phone.
Yeah. Like today, Ghoulies today, that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
What would that shit be like today?
I would love to see them DoorDash some food. Like that, like they just killed a guy and they use his phone to DoorDash some food. Like they figure it out. Like just goofing off, they accidentally order a bunch of food. It comes to the house and then they eat the delivery driver and they're like, oh, he brought wings too. You know, something cheesy like that. I think that would be right up their alley.
Sure, yeah.
But no, I would definitely suggest this movie. I'm glad you brought it up. If I remember correctly, I watched this with my uncle.
Okay.
I was like 11 maybe. And it was just like we watched a bunch of movies one night. So this was just like something we kind of threw on, and we were probably talking and stuff while we were watching it and making food or whatever. But I remembered, and like I said, I remember parts of this film. So getting to watch it again was kind of a nice little refresher for me. And just with the campiness and, you know, some of the over-the-top things, I gotta say, yeah, I see why you enjoy this film. I see why you have the love for it that you do, because yeah, I would 100% put this back on. I know my son asked me if he could watch it, and aside from the nudity, I would be fine with him watching it. So
yeah, sure.
But yeah, I would definitely suggest it, and I'm glad that we've gotten to talk about it. Is there anything else you want to talk about with it real quick, or?
No, the only other thing I do want to bring up is if you are a fan of the franchise, I found out that there was a book that was released a few years ago called The Complete History of the Ghoulies, which apparently contains cast and crew interviews, never before seen photos, and all this other stuff, and I'm finding it very hard to find a copy of this book, so I don't know if I can find it anywhere, but yeah, it's just something to, if you're interested at all, might be something to look up. If you can find it, let me know, because I can't seem to find it on any, like, Amazon or anything. It's odd, so might have to do some digging. But yeah, it's a solid horror comedy that I highly recommend. I'm so glad we got to talk about it, because like I said, it's one of my all-time favorites, has been for 30 years. So yeah, go check it out, people. But that's all I got to say about the Ghoulies.
I will say one other thing quick, because I was curious. And this was an article on Fangoria back in March of this year.
Okay.
New Ghoulies trilogy in the works from original creator Jeffrey Levy and Luca Bercovici, I think is his name, intend to revive the franchise for a new generation.
Well, it just depends on which direction they go, and if they can make it more interesting than whatever they started with to begin with, because in my opinion, their first movie, which was the first movie, was terrible, or not that interesting. It was boring. That's what I remember of the original Ghoulies. I was bored. I think that's why I enjoy this one so much, is because it's entertaining, or it's not boring.
This is what he said. This is what one of the original creators said. An entire generation of kids grew up with Ghoulies and were by turns frightened, horrified, disgusted, and laughing out loud hysteric. Ghoulies' reach was and is legendary. Kids afraid to use the toilet for fear of the slimy green creature that may lurk below. They get you in the end. That tagline has resonated through the decades. Legions of people of a certain age will recognize it immediately, mostly likely with a smile. For Ghoulies is forever embedded in what generation's childhood remembered almost fondly. That first time when they saw in the theater or on that block. So, I think if they wanted to bring the best of both, they could try to make it more of a horror movie in certain aspects. Have the Ghoulies be mean and everything, but also let them be funny. Keep that. Yeah. You can be funny and be cynical at the same time. So
it's not hard. I mean, just do dark comedy. That's all you got to do.
So
do it right.
But I wanted to look that up while we were on here still. So who knows? Maybe we will see a modern day Ghoulies.
We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath right now, but I guess it is possible.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. So, Ramblers, have you watched Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, or any Ghoulies movie for that matter? If this one slipped by, it's on Tubi right now, along with some other free places, I think, like Plex and what have you. So, go check it out. Let us know what you think about it on social medias, wherever you have your social medias, because right now it's a wild west landscape. People don't know where they're at right now, but we'll be everywhere at Horror Ramblings if we can be. So if you got more to say, send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com, or join us on Facebook or on Discord. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Patreon at Pencil Play Productions. You can leave a 5-star review on favorite podcasting app. Look up and see if we posted any questions and polls over on Spotify, and keep up with any and all things over at pencilplayproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes down below.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.